Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanam Jadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Kunjabi Adi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamana Tiravana Jadi Manatira Vanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jayom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrikacharya Asvatarasatasi Madhya's Divine Graces Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavadinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Does anybody here need an introduction to Chaitanya Bhagavata? What is it? The author and everything like that? Chaitanya Bhagavata? You heard it before? No. Little background. We're in ISKCON, we're most familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, which, of course, was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. But before him, many years before him, there was at least two principal biographies, well-known, celebrated biographies, Chaitanya Mangala and Chaitanya Bhagavata. Chaitanya Bhagavata was written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur was the son of Narayani. Narayani was the niece of Srivas in our Pancha Tattva, Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Srivas had 4 brothers, or 3 brothers, or four brothers living together in an extended family situation, and one of the brothers had a daughter named Narayani. And Narayani, when she was just 4 years old, it's a celebrated part of Gaura Lila, he gave her special mercy in order to pacify Srivas, because there was a purposeful rumor being spread around that the king, the Muslim king, was very disturbed by the kirtan of the Vaishnavas. He was coming with a whole army to just take the whole of Navadvip and toss it into the Ganga and wreck homes and smash people because of those terrible Vaishnavas. So Srivas was in anxiety for the safety of the Vaishnavas. Long story. He went to the home of Srivas and persuaded Srivas by his spiritual potency to not worry. He showed his opulences, he had Srivas worship him, he made many declarations, and one of them was, I'll go to the Qazi, if all of this fails, I'll personally go, and I'll challenge the Qazi. You get all your mullahs and all your priestly people together, and you have them induce the animals to chant the holy names of the Lord, and they won't be able to. And I'll go to those same animals, and we'll together they're in exaltation. They'll call out loudly the names of Hari. And I'll prove it to you right now. Bring Narayani. And he brought Narayani. Narayani, chant the names of Krishna in ecstasy of love of God. And she did. It wasn't play acting. She was moved by the words of Mahaprabhu, crying and rolling on the ground and calling out Krishna's name in ecstatic love of God. And Srivas was, I believe you. I have nothing to worry. You're the personality of Godhead. You'll protect all of us. So, and he would give remnants of his prasad to Narayani when she was just a little girl. Eventually she grew up. She became the mother of Vrindavan Das. And when Vrindavan Das was, just to give the chronology perspective, when Vrindavan Das was around 3 years old, that's when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas and left Navadvip. So whatever sight he had of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was he doesn't remember much. But he grew up hearing about Lord Chaitanya from those that had Lord Chaitanya's association. That was his life. And at a certain time, he received Diksha from Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu ordered him to write the life of Lord Chaitanya, which he did. And so we have the life of Lord Chaitanya that we're reading prior to Gaura Purnima. There's 3 parts, Adi, Madhya, and Antya. And like Ramayana is called Kanda, Adi Kanda, Madhya Kanda, like that. So Adi Kanda ends when Lord Chaitanya, the scholarly pastimes of Nimai Pandit are concluded, and he becomes initiated by Ishwara Puri. The scholarly pastimes fade, and the very quickly cascading in comes the devotee pastimes. And so we're about a third of the way through Madhya Kanda, This is the section where Lord Chaitanya is, he's, the two previous chapters, it's nice. Advaita Charya, as we all know, was the elder Vaishnava learned personality, Leela-wise. He is the one that called for Lord Chaitanya's descent, but he was not revealing his divinity. Advaita wanted him to reveal his divinity. He wanted to worship Lord Chaitanya as the personality of Godhead. And he wanted to have Lord Chaitanya place his feet on his head. So those two things happened. It's a nice pastime how that happened. And there's interwoven in this is Advaita Acharya hid himself at the house of Nandanacharya. Lord Chaitanya knew where he was, and he went there. The next chapter is Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who also hid himself at the house of Nandanacharya. And there's the introduction to between Mukunda introducing Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was hiding himself as a materialist. And that was disclosed by Mukunda singing beautiful verses from the Bhagavatam, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi losing it in ecstatic love. And the exhibition that was shown immediately gave Gadadhar Pandit the understanding he's not a materialist, he's on the most elevated platform of devotion. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi became the Diksha Guru of Gadadhar Pandit. And then Lord Chaitanya had a relationship, an eternal relationship with Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and those two met, and there was, a similar ecstatic embrace for hours without being able to let go of one another and shedding tears and everything, all ecstatic symptoms. So the picture we get is it's a wave after wave after wave of different adventures of Lord Chaitanya interacting with his devotees in ecstatic love. Then comes this chapter where the kirtan at the house of Srivas Thakur or Srivas Pandit takes place every evening, Lord Chaitanya's order. And then we just heard the different moods that Lord Chaitanya would exhibit during kirtan, and the full range. And when there was a mood, he would be motionless for 3 hours, or whatever. It was one ecstatic mood after the next, after the next, after the next, and that's where we ended yesterday. Vishvambar rolled on the ground in ecstasy as all the devotees sang the glories of Krishna on all sides. When Lord Vishvambar danced madly, the earth shook, and everyone became frightened. Sometimes Vishvambar danced so sweetly, it resembled the enchanting dance of Nanda's son, Krishna. Sometimes his roaring resembled that of millions of lions, yet by his mercy everyone's ears were saved from harm. Sometimes when he walked above the ground. Some persons saw this, while others could not. In his ecstasy, whoever the Lord looked at with his red eyes would first become frightened and then run away laughing. Vishvambar became agitated in ecstasy and danced, forgetful of himself and others. In ecstasy, he would catch the feet of someone and then climb on his head. Sometimes he would cry while embracing someone around their neck, and then the next moment he would climb on their shoulders. He's an ecstatic madman. like a drunkard or something. But not that kind of. They're compared. Unmada, madness. Sometimes he would become extremely restless and, in the mood of a child, make various child noises in his mouth. Sometimes he shook his feet and laughed exuberantly. Sometimes he crawled on his knees like a small child. Sometimes Vishwambar became absorbed in the mood of Krishna in his beautiful threefold bending form. He remained in that state for 3 hours. Sometimes he became absorbed in meditation and play a flute. Then he appeared exactly like Krishna, the moon-like Lord of Vrindavan. On regaining his external consciousness, he would cry in the mood of a servant. He would hold straw between his teeth and beg for the service of the Lord's lotus feet. Sometimes he whirled in a circle for 3 hours, and sometimes he danced in such a way that his feet touched his head. I've never seen a painting of that, because I can't even imagine what that would look like. Whatever mood the Lord exhibited was most wonderful. The son of Jagannath Mishra danced in the ecstasy of chanting his own holy names. Sometimes he roared so loudly that his entire body trembled. Unable to remain steady, he then fell to the ground. Sometimes he roared, so although the Lord's complexion was golden, he sometimes appeared in various colors. Sometimes his 2 eyes doubled in size. In this way, the Lord became absorbed in the transcendental mood of a Vaishnava and spoke in words that did not befit him. Previously, whenever the Lord saw a Vaishnava, he would address him as Prabhu. But now he would grab them by the hair and announce, "This fellow is my servant." Previously, whenever the Lord saw a Vaishnava, he would catch hold of his feet, but now he would climb on their chest and offer his feet to them. On seeing the Lord's ecstasy, the devotees wept as they embraced each other's necks. All the devotees were decorated with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands as they chanted in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. The sound of mridangas, wampers, who knows what the Bengali word is, conchas and kartals, mixed with their congregational chanting of the holy names. The sound of Sankirtana filled the sky and pierced the coverings of the universe. All inauspiciousness in the 4 directions was vanquished. This was not so wonderful, for even the dancing of the Lord's servants, by the dancing of the Lord's servants, all obstacles are destroyed, and the entire world is purified. When the Lord himself dances to the chanting of his own names, who can say what benefit is there? Can even the Puranas describe this? The son of Jagannath Mishra danced in the midst of the auspicious congregational chanting of Lord Hari's holy names, which vibrated in the 4 directions. He whose ecstatic holy names and glories induced Lord Shiva to forget his clothes and dance was now personally dancing. That Lord whose names induced Valmiki to become enriched by austerities, whose holy names awarded Ajamila with liberation, and whose holy names, when heard, destroy one's material bondage. That Lord who has incarnated in Kali Yuga, now engaged in dancing. That Lord whose holy names Shukadeva and Narada sing as they wander about, whose transcendental qualities are sung by the 1,000-headed Lord Ananta, and whose holy names are the best of all the forms of atonement, now personally danced before the eyes of the fortunate. I took a sinful birth, for I did not take birth at that time. Therefore I did not have the opportunity to see such a great festival. The son of Vyasa knew the Lord's intention, so he glorified Kali Yuga in the Srimad Bhagavatam. As Mahaprabhu, Vishvambar danced in his own ecstasy. The movement of his feet sounded most enchanting. Due to the Lord's absorption in ecstasy, his garland did not remain on his neck, but scattered at the feet of the devotees. Where did the happiness of riding on Garuda go? Where did the form holding conch, club, disc, and lotus go? Where did the happiness of lying on the bed of Ananta go? The Lord now cried and rolled on the ground in the mood of a servant. Where did the happiness of Vaikuntha go? The Lord forgot all other happiness while tasting the happiness of a servant. Where did the happiness of looking at the face of Rama, the goddess of fortune, go? Now the Lord raised his arms and face and cried in separation. Great personalities like Shiva and Narada give up their opulence and wander as servants of the Supreme Lord, who now gave up all happiness, took straw between his teeth, and begged for devotional service. One who gives up such service and desires something else is like one who gives up nectar and desires poison. Why does a person who does not describe the glories of devotional service recite or teach Srimad Bhagavatam? Those who teach the scriptures without understanding their purport are simply carrying the burden of the scriptures like the asses. In this way, they carry the burden of the scriptures without understanding their purpose. They present irrational meanings to irrational audiences. The Vedas and the Srimad Bhagavatam declare that service to the Lord is the greatest treasure. Lakshmi, Brahma, and Shiva are always engaged in such service. Anyone who does not believe in the words of Lord Chaitanya cannot attain him. What more can I say? Lord Sri Gaurasundar danced in the mood of a servant as the enchanting sound of kirtan vibrated in the four directions. While listening to the kirtan, Advaita Acharya sometimes lost consciousness. He took straw in his hands and approached the Lord. He covered his entire body with grass and kept some on his head as he frowned while dancing. Everyone was frightened on seeing Advaita Acharya's devotional service, but Nityananda and Gadadhar simply laughed. In this way, Sri Gaura Sundara, the life of the entire universe, danced. He repeatedly expressed unlimited varieties of moods. The son of Sachi manifested many wonderful transformations of ecstatic love that are not found or heard in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes his entire body was stunned in such a way that no one could even slightly bend his body. Sometimes that body became slackened in such a way that it became as soft as butter without any bones. Sometimes his body appeared to double or triple in size, and sometimes it appeared to shrink. Sometimes he was intoxicated in such a way that he tottered like a drunkard, and sometimes he swayed back and forth while laughing. Seeing all the Vaishnavas, the Lord called each of them by the name they bore in their previous birth. He loudly addressed them, Haladar, Shiva, Shukadev, Narada, Prahlad, Rama, Aja, Uddhava. In this way, the Lord revealed their actual identities by speaking about them in various ways. All the Lord's servants happily watched as the Lord displayed unparalleled ecstatic love for Krishna and unparalleled dancing. Only those who had previously entered the house of Srivas were allowed to see those pastimes. The door was firmly locked by the order of the Lord. The ordinary people of Madhya were not able to enter. On hearing the loud kirtan, people came running, but being unable to enter, they stood at the door. Thousands of people loudly clamored, "Open the door, quickly! We want to see the kirtan!" All the Vaishnavas were so absorbed in ecstasy of kirtan that they were not aware of their own bodies, so what did they know about others? The materialists, being unable to enter the house, spoke harsh words outside. Someone said, "These fellows beg to fill their bellies. They are ashamed of being recognized, so they do not open the door." Someone else said, "Oh, brothers, these people bring wine and drink at night unseen by others." Someone said, "I think this is due to his previous activities." Someone else said, "This is due to bad association. He does not have a father to guide him, Lord Chaitanya. And he is afflicted by gastric disorders. Now Nimai has become affected by bad association." Someone said, "He has stopped all studies, and if he does not study for a month, he forgets all grammar." Someone said, "Oh, brothers, I know the secret why they close the door and perform kirtan. At night they recite mantras to bring 5 girls, along with various palatable foods. They eat, they wear sandalwood paste and garlands, they dress in fine clothes, and then they enjoy with girls in various ways. If other people saw this, they would be embarrassed, therefore they enjoy behind closed doors." Someone said, "Let tomorrow come and we will go to the court and have each and every one of them tied around the waist and arrested. There was never any kirtan in this state before, but these people have ruined everything here by introducing kirtan and causing famine. Know for certain that because of them, the demigods are not showering rain, the paddy fields have become dried, and no one can make any money. Just wait. Tomorrow we will take care of Srivas, and see what we do tomorrow to Advaita Acharya. We will not know where this Nityananda Avaduta came from. He stays at the house of Srivas and enacts all these dramas." Although the materialists threatened the devotees in this way, the Vaishnavas were in ecstasy and did not hear anything. Someone said, "Dancing is not appropriate for brahmanas. Why do they engage in such activities, even after studying the scriptures?" Someone else said, "They are not fit to be seen. By conversing with them, all of our piety will be lost. If a gentleman sees such dancing and chanting, he'll become like them. See for yourself. Previously, Nimai Pandit was most intelligent. Now, by the association of these fellows, his mind has changed." Someone said, "They have not realized the self. They do not know what their loud calling will yield. The Supreme Brahman is present within one's body. These people are like those who lose something at home and search for it in the forest." Someone else said, "What is the use of criticizing others? Let's go home. What is the use of watching?" Someone said, "We could not see due to our past misdeeds. They are fortunate, so why should we blame them?" The atheists gathered together and chased that person away, thinking, "He is one of them." What is the loss if we do not see the kirtan? Their kirtan is like a big argument among hundreds of people. We do not see any japa, any austerities, or any cultivation of spiritual knowledge amongst them. They simply engage in their concocted activity and ruin their caste by gathering rice, bananas, milk, and yogurt and eating together. People came to see and ridicule them. Let us see what these madmen are doing. After speaking like this, they went home. As one left, another came and knocked at the door. As soon as two atheists met together, they embraced and fell on the ground, laughing loudly. They would also go and bring others who had not seen what was going on. Yet some persons, on the advice of others, would refuse to go. Someone said, "Oh, brother, I have seen and heard everything. Along with Nimai, they have all become mad. It sounds like the tumultuous croaking of frogs or the wild celebration of Durga Puja festival at the house of Srivas. The only thing we can hear is, hey, hey, ho, ho. These people bring infamy on us. Madhya has thousands of great exalted Bhattacharyas, yet such impostors also live here. Tomorrow we will drive the Brahmana Srivas out of Madhya. Then we will break his house and throw it in the river. When this Brahmana ruins the prosperity of this village, the Yavanas will become powerful here. In this way, the atheists made a great commotion. Yet, nevertheless, they were almost fortunate. They took birth in the same village as the Lord, and they saw and heard about his activities. The followers of Lord Chaitanya were intoxicated in the mellows of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the statements of the materialists did not enter their ears. Day and night they happily chanted, Jaya Krishna, Murari, Mukunda, Vanamali. Vishvambar danced day and night with the devotees. No one became tired, for they all had spiritual bodies. A number of yugas passed as 1 year, with no one understanding due to the ecstasy of being with Lord Chaitanya, while a number of yugas passed during the Rasa Lila pastime. The gopis thought that only a moment had passed. In this way, Krishna manifests inconceivable pastimes that are known only to the fortunate servants of Lord Chaitanya. In this way, Vishvambar Mahaprabhu danced until only 3 hours of the night remained. Sri Chaitanya Chandra then took all the Shalagram Shilas on his lap and sat on the Singasana. As the Sinasana made a cracking sound due to the weight of Vishvambar, Nityananda quickly touched it. Lord Ananta manifested within the throne, so it did not break, as Lord Gauranga comfortably sat on it. On the order of Lord Chaitanya, the kirtan was stopped. Then the Lord loudly revealed his glories. Quote, In Kali Yuga I am Krishna himself, and I am Narayana. I am the Supreme Lord and the son of Devaki. I am the Lord of innumerable universes. I am the object of all glorification, and all of you are my eternal servants. I have incarnated for your sake. Whatever you offer me, that is my food. Actually, you have offered everything to me. Then Srivas replied, O Lord, everything belongs to you. The Lord said, I will eat it all. Advaita then said, O Lord, that would be most auspicious. All the servants of the Lord then offered him various items with their own hands, and the Lord, in his own ecstasy, happily ate. He ate yogurt, milk, and butter. He repeatedly asked, bring whatever else you have. He ate various types of milk sweets mixed with sugar, as well as sugar candy and green coconut water with his pulp. He ate bananas, flat rice, and puffed rice, and then repeatedly said, bring more. By ordinary calculation, the Lord ate at one moment enough food to feed 200 people. Then he said, what else do you have? The Lord said, bring more, bring more. There's nothing left here. The devotees then became frightened and remembered the Supreme Lord. All the devotees folded their hands and fearfully said, we do not know of your glories. With these insignificant offerings, how can we satisfy in whose stomach innumerable universes rest? The Lord said, "The offerings of a devotee are not insignificant. Therefore, quickly bring whatever you have. I regard as great even the smallest gift offered by my devotees in pure love." "O Lord, we have camphor and betel nuts." The Lord replied, "Don't worry, give them to me." All the devotees became ecstatic, and their fears were dispelled, as those who were qualified offered the Lord betel nuts. All the servants joyfully offered betel nuts, and the Lord smiled as he accepted them with his own hand. The Lord rolled his eyes and roared loudly as he repeatedly called out, "Nada! Nada! Nada!" The devotees did not say anything, but sat down in silence as their hearts were struck with wonder. All the devotees saw him as the supreme chastiser. They had no strength to stand before him. Nityananda held an umbrella over Mahaprabhu's head, and Advaita offered prayers with folded hands before the Lord. In great fear, the devotees all folded their hands and remembered the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya as they bent their heads down. Anyone who is pleased to hear about this display of opulence by the Lord will certainly see the beautiful face of Lord Chaitanya. One will understand these pastimes according to his qualification. No one can understand more without the sanction of the Lord. The Lord looked at Advaita and said, "Ask for some benediction. I have descended here because of you." In this way the Lord smiled as he looked at each devotee and said, "Ask for some benediction." In this way the Lord manifested his own opulences. On seeing this, the devotees floated in an ocean of bliss. No one can understand the inconceivable pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. One moment he displayed his opulence, and the next moment he fell unconscious. On regaining his external consciousness, the Lord began to cry. Then he continually cried in the mood of a servant. The Lord put his arms around the devotees' shoulders and cried. He addressed each one of them as brother and friend. The power of his illusory energy was such that no one could recognize him. No one other than his servants can understand him in truth. The devotees smiled on seeing the Lord's characteristics. They said, "The Lord Narayan has appeared." After remaining on the Singhasana for some time, Lord Gaurasundar fell unconscious in ecstasy. He fell to the ground with no symptoms of life visible in his body. Seeing all this, all his associates began to cry. Then all the devotees concluded that the Lord had left them. If the Lord displays such a cruel mood, then we will also give up our bodies at once. When the devotees were thinking in this way, the crest jewel of all omniscient persons manifested his external consciousness and loudly chanted the name of Hari. We're almost done. They all raised a tumultuous sound of ecstasy. Being overwhelmed, they did not know where they were. In this way, various ecstatic pastimes took place in Navadvip as the Lord of Vaikuntha enjoyed his pastimes in ecstatic love. May the mind of one who hears these auspicious topics always remain at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Chandra, surrounded by his devotees. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. I just started listening to a nice academic perspective presentation by Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, Krishna Kshetra Swami. on the historical context of specifically Chaitanya Charitamrita, but what we can only imagine, there were different views on who is Lord Chaitanya during his time, and very strongly Vrindavan Das is establishing he's the personality of Godhead. As we know, in history books or encyclopedias or something, there's different ways he's considered. A sannyasi, a sadhu, a sentimentalist, a this and a that, and persons that are, as we're hearing, unless one is a devotee, one can't understand. And even amongst the devotees, the understanding is according to what the Lord reveals, and the Lord reveals according to one's faith. And obviously, Vrindavan Das Thakur has full faith in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And we've said this several times, his contemporaries considered everything that he's described in Chaitanya Bhagavata as authorized, meaning it's actual pastimes that took place, actual historical events that took place. Now, some of this is really extreme. In many ways, dancing where his feet touched his head and showing different forms and different ecstatic moods and standing in a certain position for 3 hours. And from the devotee perspective, it's waves of, as Rupa Goswami describes what is prema. Prema comes after the bhava stage, bhava bhakti, comes prema bhakti. And bhava is compared to waves, and prema is the mixing of those waves, like in an ocean. Waves and waves and waves and waves, some this high, some that high, some moving this way, some moving in that way, and they intersect, and that's in the ocean. The churning of the movements of the waves in the ocean. When those waves are bhavas, that's prema. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the understanding that we have is he's experiencing and exhibiting amongst his devotees, not to the others who weren't permitted to come in, those that regularly would come to Srivas. It's not like the inside group, but the persons that are devotees, that are genuinely devoted. They could see what's being described here, and that he is describing now for the world, not just from the people who are inside the walls of Srivas's home or the courtyard, etc. Because if you've been there, it's an expanded place. It's for devotees, and non-devotees aren't going to appreciate it. But Chaitanya Charitamrita took that explanation to another level. That is to say, in a comprehensive way, authoritative description of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes is chronicled, particularly distinct from the earlier section of Lord Chaitanya's life, the Puri's onward section of Lord Chaitanya's life, and who he exchanged with, and the understanding of his tattva is clearly enunciated with philosophical acumen in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the idea of, one of the ideas of reading Chaitanya Bhagavata instead of Chaitanya Charitamrita in advance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day is we're not accustomed to hearing Chaitanya Bhagavat. So getting a different perspective, that is Vrindavan Das Thakur's perspective, it doesn't have the same Gora Tattva support. It's just ecstatic expressions after ecstatic expression of the pastimes. Of course, Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary has some substantial explanation, but the comprehensive explanation is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So getting a picture of these not so easy to understand pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. We were discussing this yesterday, and one devotee reminded me of a conversation I had with them maybe 20 years ago, when they were also expressing they have a little difficulty relating to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So 20 years ago, I vaguely recall the conversation, but my advice was just listen to Amala Bhakta's recorded narration every day. Commit a certain amount of time every day and just hear it and hear it again and hear it again. I don't know if I shared it with them, but I can share it with you. Many, many moons ago, we didn't have the digital kind of recordings. It was cassettes. And I received a copy. There were 33 cassettes to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Amala Bhakta, just narrating the verses. And I listened to it 33 times. Well, 33, take the cassette out, put the next cassette in, and I heard it 33 times. I counted them. And, it has an effect. That sound vibration of hearing Lord Chaitanya's pastimes has an effect. Plus, I really liked Amala Bhakta's way of doing things, the sound effects and the different Before he was a devotee, he had two main professions. He was a yoga teacher and a radio announcer. He has a radio announcer's voice. If I remember correctly, that's what he used to do for his income. And then when he met devotees, that was over, and he became a narrator of Krishna's pastimes and Ram's pastimes and Chaitanya's pastimes and everything. Very simple devotee, very pure-hearted devotee, very happy devotee. So just by hearing, it has a softening effect, a heart-opening and heart-softening effect, because the attraction, just like attraction for Krishna, is natural. It's within the heart of everyone, because Krishna is the source of everyone. So attraction for Krishna, hearing about Krishna, is natural. Become attracted to Krishna. And same for Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself. The attraction becomes natural. So just by hearing and hearing again and hearing again, that attraction comes. So and when we have these readings like this, there's time for some discussion. And sometimes it's because it's just pastime, there's not a whole lot of discussion. And sometimes there's a whole lot of discussion. So I'm ready for anything. We have a little portable microphone. We have our little protocol for wiping down the microphone before we circulate it. If anybody would like to speak something or comment something or...
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj, for this wonderful, sweet reading of Chaitanya Bhagavat. I was just curious about the meaning of that nada words.
It's my understanding is this. It's just a colloquial expression that's used to honor a senior person, an elder. It specifically indicates Advaitacharya. Now there may be some other meaning besides that one, but that's nada.
Just reminded of were these the same words he spoke when he was trying to recall Narottam Das Thakur? Or maybe not. I somehow remember hearing. No? Okay.
I don't recall. If anybody else in the room recalls, you can say so. Okay. Anything else in the front here? In the front right here?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for such a wonderful talk.
Mask down, and then I can hear you better. Then you can put it back.
Sorry. Thank you so much again for such a wonderful talk and such a wonderful lecture. When you were reading those verses where you were constantly saying people said, it was just I was just thinking about it. Like, we hear so many people say so many things in our lives. So how to not be affected by that? Because what little I could understand from whatever you read was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, none of them ever cared about what people were thinking about them, and they continued to follow the path of devotional service. And so I think it's a two-part question. One is, when we read pastimes like this, what should we try to learn and how to apply those in our lives? And
you have another one after that one?
No, I guess I'm just trying to see how can I apply that, because I understand that you really need to be at a super exalted position to not be affected by what people say. But I think I struggle with that a lot. That I care about my image, I care about what people think about me. I guess I should stop talking.
Okay. Many things, but one important one is Krishna. One of the qualities of Krishna is he's all-knowing. He's omniscient. It's not that even when in ecstasy his omniscience gets turned off. It's always on. He's always omniscient. And although he was in these states of ecstasy, not following any kind of social protocol that one normally does in social dealings, he was just in the company of his devotees. He was exhibiting, otherworldly everything. At the same time, he is omniscient, so he understood what they were feeling. Some of them didn't know anything because they were so absorbed. But as they came to know, they were feeling something. So what did he do? He displayed his divinity. Same thing that happened previously. So the theme here is you will be protected. The application is the Supreme Lord will protect you. Just so in this world, come on in. Yeah, sure. In this world, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, there's always duality. There's honor and dishonor, for example. It's just the nature of the place. It's going to be like that whether you close your eyes or you open your eyes. It's just the nature of the place. It's always going to be. So the Bhagavad Gita message is you tolerate, and then, amplified up is the Lord will provide protection. And if you're not feeling the protection, then you'll be more amplified with the concerns of, am I being honored or dishonored? The duality will impact you more. So the application is, by hearing these pastimes, one can understand the Lord will always be your protector. Give her the microphone.
So then, Maharaj, can I
Take
use...
shelter of that fact. The Lord will protect you.
So when you said that you stop being affected, is that how you gauge your spiritual progress?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, let's take, in this extreme example, like the gopis, they not just broke social convention, but, all these other things that, they just, who can do what they did? And they, so they transgressed because of their unbridled love for Krishna. So supposing we're not there.
Right.
Supposing you're not in an ecstatic kirtan where you forget yourself and what people might say about your being involved in, just getting lost in, supposing you're not there. There is an awareness. Lord Chaitanya was aware, but he wasn't, it's not just exactly a one-to-one correspondence, is what I'm trying to say. One may do something, say something, when there's, the rumor mongering and the, being dishonored thing is going on. You may say something, do something, and you may not. You may be cautious, because he was inside. He didn't let outsiders inside. That it happened several times. Someone snuck in, that the brahmachari that drank only milk, and he persuaded, and he was hid behind a door. Lord Chaitanya stopped. Somebody's here, and then he chastised him, saying, "You don't think you can achieve perfection by austerities, drinking only milk, being a celibate. That something else is required." So he was instructive, but he was aware. So you may be aware of the circumstance that you're in, and what you disclose to others. An indiscriminate person makes no consideration. But the madman doesn't make any consideration. And, we make considerations of knowing still there's going to be honor and dishonor, because it's the nature of the place. So we're thoughtful about what we disclose. Yes, particularly now, with inner sentiments of our devotion, particularly in that regard. But we observe social etiquettes. We stay within the boundaries of social etiquettes, knowing that some people are going to be, not understand and dishonor and disrespect and all of those things. It's going to happen. So now, specifically, when you're back to your question, there's a real nice section in Bhishma Dev's instructions to Yudhisthira that's relevant to your question. When there's concern about how others, am I doing the right thing, and how are others going to take what I'm doing, even if it's the right thing, Bhishma Dev gives a very nice instruction to Yudhisthira in 3 departments. So it's something you can do. It's not specifically in this Gora Lila exercise, but it's from the Bhagavatam. Are your activities under the guidance of, are they in accord with theistic conduct, under the guidance of qualified Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and are for the pleasure of the Lord. So scriptural, properly guided with the right mood. And if those three things are in place, then you don't worry. That's Bhishma Dev's advice to Yudhishthira. Because Krishna will be pleased. That's the standard of how we can know Krishna will be pleased. Knowing that there's going to be duality out there. So your question is it a measure of our Krishna consciousness that we're not disturbed when the duality thing comes? Kind of, but not completely. Anything else? We have over here something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this wonderful sweet pastime of the Kirtan at Seva Sangat. While you were narrating, one of the first time came that I think Srivas Thakur or someone holding the grass on their teeth and serenity. What's the significance of holding the grass on teeth?
It's a cultural thing. Now, in America, it's not a cultural thing. But in India, it's a cultural thing. At least in certain parts of India, it's a cultural thing. It's a external exhibition of submission and humility.
Thank you, sir.
Here's a funny story. Once upon a time, I was traveling with one devotee on a flight back to America, and the whole flight was canceled. And so we had to go to down wherever that place is in Delhi, where all the airlines have their things, because at that time even the airport wasn't. Anyway, so it wasn't working. So this one devotee, ISKCON devotee from South America, he went to the agent with straw in his teeth and fell at his feet and held his feet and said, "Please help me, I got to get back." And magic happened and he got him back. Because that person at least understood what's the message. The message is, I'm at your feet, I'm helpless, please be kind.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for this wonderful topic. A few days back, you were also narrating the pastime of Keshav Kashmiri and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smashes his pride, and also at the same time he engages his skills in Krishna consciousness. So
Yes.
at my level, I feel that whenever there's some desire, Krishna reciprocates by giving some devotional service. But when he gives it, there's some amount of pride also that comes along with it. My question is, how do we continue to keep heart soft so that we keep getting engaged in devotional service rather than being eclipsed by pride?
This question was asked yesterday. No, this morning? Yesterday? You asked a question like this. Indifference. It's not the same, but it's close. And how to make the heart soft. The answer I gave at that time was sadhu sangha. Keep in good association, and that's the best path forward. Now, there's another, and that is get ready for a hammer on your head. because Krishna doesn't like pride. And for sure, Krishna will help you become freed from pride. No problem for Krishna to help you become freed from pride. But why put Krishna through that trouble of having to hammer your head in? But that's an option. And another is the process of hearing itself, which is connected with sadhusanga, but hearing in a quality way, regularly. It cleanses and it brings about course correction. But the hearing is something you do best is with, like what we're doing now, or however you have your activities where you do hearing with others. And then the heart becomes softer. And if your heart is soft, then someone can tap you on the shoulder and say, Prabhu, you're headed for the ditch. Or you just did something that, you did need to do some course correction. Or something. Or I see there's some pride arising. And that's not, I know it's something you don't want. So when you have close friends, they can say those things and it doesn't hurt. And if somebody is not a close friend, they don't say those things. Or they say those things and it's like the gossiping people. They don't say them to you, they say them to other people. So when your heart is open to those who are well-wishers and are confidential, then you can do some course correction that way. So those are three.
Thank you so much.
Over here. He's really thorough.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you so much. Nice to know about it. I actually had never heard about the Chaitanya Bhagavatam before. So nice to know about that. And as well as Charitram, that also first time I heard about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have a quick question about it. Like in terms of, since, I only have started reading Srimad Bhagavatam and also, Bhagavad Gita, I'm still trying to, but what's the real importance about, the Sri, Chaitanya Bhagavatam, Charitram? I mean, so many scriptures, books are there. Like how can one, I'm trying to understand in terms of the, what's the importance of this, reading the books and everything. And the question I had was, what did motivated Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his time? I'm sure about the scriptures and everything, and what scriptures did motivated him? Because you said he was yogi as well as a radio. So what was really something which motivated and something we can take away? Thank you very much.
Your first question is you want to understand what's the relevance and importance of Chaitanya Bhagavat and these literatures about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, specifically in conjunction with Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That topic has something like 75 different speakers speaking about it in the course of leading up to Gaur Purnima. But so to put it in a capsule form, which isn't going to say everything, but something. It gives us a picture of the ripened fruit. When introducing who is Lord Chaitanya to audiences that don't know anything, I start with, who is Krishna? And they go, oh, yes, I know who is Krishna. So Krishna's teaching, Krishna appeared for three reasons: annihilate the miscreants, give protection to the devotees, and restore Dharma. And the stored Dharma significantly is Bhagavad Gita. So that's the function of Bhagavad Gita. And the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam. All other dharmas are subordinate to this one. What's the one? Mam Ekam Sharanam. Bhagavad Gita, conclusion. Mamekam Sharanam, surrender to Krishna. Krishna considered, in retrospect, many things after his departure. How are people going to understand this? How to surrender to me? And that combined with some other reasons, I will come and teach myself how to. So that's the mature fruit. Chaitanya Leela and Chaitanya teachings is the mature fruit of the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, how to. This is what it looks like. In contemporary life, from the perspective of a devotee of Krishna. Krishna teaching how, as a devotee of Krishna, one can Mamekam Sharanam. So that's the connection. But if one doesn't understand, the principle that's to be achieved, that is how to surrender to Krishna, how to live a life of devotion to Krishna, and the means, the goal and the means to achieve it, then the ripened fruit is kind of like, a little difficult to relate to, because I've been doing this now for over a month, going through, and lots of people in the discussion section say, I have difficulty relating to these, like we just mentioned. Because, Ram's Leela, it's, that's easy. Human-like, teaching morality, teaching fidelity to his father's instructions and so forth. It's restoring righteousness, and okay, that's lovely. But anyway, this is really, it's an exhibition of ecstatic love in the mature stage of surrender to Krishna. So, what's the importance? It tells us where the train is going. And we're not there. And it's hard to even understand it, what to speak of, like, that's where the train is going. What's love of God look like? And in the highest stages of love of God, that's what it looks like. And, they're having a good time. They're singing and dancing and partying, but it's all in relation to love of God. They're doing things that worldly people like to do, but it's all in relation to love of God. They have relationships, they have children, they have, families, they have occupations, they have their activities, and they have love of God. And they're enjoying coming together and discussing topics of Krishna and chanting Krishna's holy name. Now, that's toning it down a whole lot. This is like over the top. But the importance, so Chaitanya Charitamrita has, the frame is, especially in the beginning, it's a little more sober. A little more explanation of things in step by step. So it's Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself teaching us how to live a life of devotion to Krishna. And specifically also the significance of the chanting of the holy name in restoring that orientation towards a life of devotion to Krishna. How does it work? And what is that significance? Because that's in his teachings. Now, let me just wind back a little bit. And 150 years ago, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was living in India at the time. It was the height of the British rule. And he had that same desire, the people of the whole world. The whole world should know who is Lord Chaitanya. So in the English language, he created a little 86-page little mini booklet, The Life and Teachings of Sri Chaitanya. Now the teachings part was half, And it was teachings. It was essential teachings, 10 essential teachings. So it's very, doctrinal to his teachings. And then the Leela was summarized in the first part. We're hearing, in much more detail of the Leela. But he's Krishna himself, teaching in this age how to live a life of devotion to Krishna with strong emphasis on chanting. So it can be much, much more simplified than reading what we're reading, because this is, for people who are practicing and have a desire to go further. So the value of knowing about Chaitanya Charitamrita and here Chaitanya Bhagavat is the role of Lord Chaitanya in the life of Kali Yuga to understand how to practice Krishna Bhakti. Now he gave the assignment of writing books on the process of Bhakti to his disciples. He engaged them, and so they wrote volumes and volumes on the process of Bhakti. That's much, 2 feet on the ground kind of explanations, very scientific, very clear, this and that, and obstacles and removal of obstacles and categories of deviations and so forth and so on. Very, very comprehensive. So that's part of Lord Chaitanya's teachings and his pastimes, is what his disciples wrote to give us a foundation for the science of bhakti. You do one, then I'm looking at the computer over here.
Because my question is
Go
off
ahead.
topic. Can I ask?
Go ahead, you got the microphone.
Okay. This is from the Uddhav Gita that you've been reading in the morning. I had a question about detachment. When we talk about detachment and we say we start feeling detached from at this stage from material life, then how do we make sure that we are not becoming cold-hearted and impersonal? How to not go that route?
In the Uddhava Gita, keep it simple. My response will be simple. Krishna says to Uddhava, an ideal candidate for bhakti is neither too attached nor too detached. Because the too detached becomes hard-hearted, and the too attached becomes negligent. So not too attached, not too detached. The too detached is impersonal. So the detachment in bhakti doesn't mean trash it. Detachment means you engage it, but without the mood of being the enjoyer of it. It means, the sense objects and the world around us and stuff. No, let's just say with family, there's attachment to family naturally, but there's an inordinate degree where it blocks one's vision and one can't see clearly and understand clearly anything, even what's good for the other person, etc., etc. If there's too much attachment, intelligence is lost. But some attachment must be there. Otherwise, it's hard-hearted impersonalism. I don't care, and so on. Okay. Online, how are we doing? Who's going to do? You going to do the online questions? There's only one? Let's do it.
This is from Shivani. Thank you so much for the class. My question is, how can Mahaprabhu be so ecstatic hearing his own name, Kirtan? Or should we understand that because he comes in the bhava of Srimati Radharani, that it's the bhava that manifests hearing Krishna's name?
That was an easy multiple choice question. I would add to the option B and that is he's enjoying seeing his devotees engaged in that way. But it's primarily, the ecstasy of Radharani calling Krishna's name. Because we just heard, the emotions went in all different directions. But the last section is in the mood of the servant. In the mood of the servant, he's calling Krishna's name. Or even more specifically, in the mood of Radharani, he's calling Krishna's name. He's come to teach the Yoga Dharma. So he's calling Krishna's name. In that mood, serving his devotees, serving everybody. Anything else in the room here? You have something.
Just sharing, Guru Maharaj, we were talking about nada, Advaitacharya being adversed as nada. So I heard from Jayapataka Maharaj once that nada means shaved up. And Advaitacharya got that name because he was always shaved up. And he quotes Bhaktisiddhanta, because Bhaktisiddhanta in the commentary, he always says that, he's shaved up, not like we always see him as bearded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nada. Okay. Well, another controversy in ISKCON. Look at this. Did Advaitacharya have a beard or not? Now I've been through this several times, and there are scriptural references like Bhaktisiddhanta's, and then there's a reference. I can send it to you, where Prabhupada specifically says and writes, we keep ourselves cleanly shaven, and Advaitacharya wasn't cleanly shaven, but Nimai didn't correct him because he was elder, but he had a beard and mustache. So, it is controversy. Welcome. You have something.
I'm not sure where I read about it. So nada in Bengali means calling out loudly. So is that name coming there because Advaita Prabhu has called Gaurang Prabhu to come down?
I'm not a Bengali scholar, so I can't help you with that.
Because we say Sankhanada means loudly, blowing the conch. That's called Sankhanada. Similarly, Nada is normally
Loud.
used in that way, calling out loudly.
Well, we have 3 different answers. You want to add another one?
Just one question regarding chanting like Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So can we, the thought came to my mind recently is when I'm chanting this name, I'm chanting like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nitai's name, like Gaur Nitai, or as a Krishna Balram, is it same?
Yes.
Can we think I'm chanting the Nitai Gauranga's name,
Yes. Anything? Our ladies in the back, anything? Over here.
Prabhu, I have a question, not exactly related to today's talk, but it was coming in my mind a whole lot. Of course, there is a certain percentage of people in this world who believe in Krishna Bhakti, like we all here. But what is the ISKCON thinking about those people who are non-believers of Krishna Bhakti?
Okay, that's good. Thank you for the qualification. Because there's, according to Bhagavad Gita, one is going to have faith in something. And if it's not in Krishna, so this is an answer to your question, it's according to the modes of nature. And there's a description, this mode, that mode, the other mode, and there's some, it's in terms of faith. Faith, the word faith is used, you're using the word belief, it's quite similar, not the same, but similar. So according to the modes of nature, one is going to have faith. And for that matter, differences of theology have a lot to do with culture, but it also has a lot to do with the modes of nature. Different conceptions of God have a lot to do with the modes of nature. So, thanks. Specifically, the non-believers, they may say, I don't believe, but I don't believe in God. They're going to believe in something. They're going to believe in. Here's Prabhupada to professor in Moscow. Please answer this question, Professor Kotovsky. How are we different? You have some leader, and you align yourself with that leader. I have some leader, and I've aligned myself with that leader. Yad yadacharati shreshtas tadved. So how are we different? Your leader is Lenin, my leader is Krishna, but we're the same. We both of us have a leader, and we're following that leader. So how are we different? Prabhupada said he didn't know how to answer. He was confused by the question. But the principle is, even if those that are non-believers, they believe in something. They believe in their mind, or they believe in something. Somebody. Some leader that says something and they follow that somebody, plus their own little spice added to it. So you can't get away from having belief in something, is the point, because it's intrinsic to the soul. Faith is intrinsic to the soul. You're going to repose that faith one way or another way, that's a choice. So those that don't have faith in Krishna is by the modes of nature. It's going to be another kind of faith. Okay? I think we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Papa.